What's up guys, Block FPL here, and today we will be looking at my team for game week 5. My wildcard week went pretty well in terms of 1 week output. It could have been better, but I think my team is well set up for the future, and I did get a nice green arrow, cutting my rank in half. I also have a good squad value of 101.5 with 0.1 in the bank, which is a good start, and hopefully I can grow that and it will help me in the future. Now let's go over a quick review of my players and how they performed last week. Norwich, a little disappointing. I expected Pukki to get a goal, I'm not going to lie. Abraham was probably my big success. Well, obviously he wasn't a big success. I transferred him in the wild card and he scored twice. I'm glad I held on to Alexander-Arnold. He has really become good. If you have Van Dijk or Robertson right now, you're probably thinking of making that transfer to Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maybe you wait for your wild card or whatever, but he definitely looks really good right now. Zinchenko, him, and Digne, I all kept. It's always tempting to get rid of players when you're on a wild card, but I kept them, and so far it looks to be a good decision. De Bruyne, obviously, it was pretty clear that I had to get him in. And Cantwell, he was disappointing too. My captaincy was disappointing too. Sterling wasn't that involved, which sort of putting me off captaining him for this next week. Yeah, he had some decent stats, but they just didn't seem to be running the play through him, so that's why I'm sort of leaning for a different captaincy option. But yes, that is my team last week. A good green arrow. Now let's move on to next week. So here's my team for this week. As you can see, I will not be making any transfers because I really just don't think it's necessary. That was part of the reason why I wildcarded. You know, I set my team up for long-term success. I think I will be playing Lundstrom at the moment. I've pretty much decided on that, but the big decision this week is who do I play out of not Raheem Sterling. Who do I play out of Pukki and Zinchenko? The tough decision right now. I have Pukki in. He's the attacker. Zinchenko without Laporte beside him. I don't know how much I trust Man City. They have been giving up some big chances. People might say, oh, you know, against Bournemouth, they just conceded that one really good free kick. Well, Adam Smith also had like a shot from 6 yards out that he hit right into Ederson. And there were other big chances in those games. So just because the unlikely one went in doesn't really make it any better. I am confident in McGinn this week. He blanked last week, but I benched him, and West Ham at home looks to be a really good matchup. I think he should be able to get in return. Hopefully, in general, all my players have pretty good matchups besides Pukki and maybe Abraham. Hopefully, Abraham can keep Mayhem going. I'm very excited about that pick. If he continues to do well, it could be one of my best picks, if not my best pick so far this season, if I get ahead of the curve on that. But yes, I would advise trying to find a way to play Lundstrom this week if you have him. I know obviously a lot of people do have him. He's got a good chance of getting a goal or an assist. His expected goals and expected assists have been high. They're playing Southampton at home. Obviously, he's listed as a defender for some dumb reason because he's not a defender at all. And there was no reason to think that he would be a defender. But yes, he could be a big steal this season. He's finally got a good matchup after a couple of bad ones. So I think, even though he's so cheap, I think there's really no way that I can't play him this week. So even if that means benching Zinchenko, I think I've got to go with Lundstrom in this situation. The captaincy choice is also a big decision because for me it's between Sterling, De Bruyne, and Salah. And I guess I could also throw Alexander-Arnold in the mix too, which would be interesting. But right now it's on Salah or De Bruyne just because, okay, yes, Salah didn't score last game, but he did hit the post with that shot. And I would expect Newcastle to concede more than they did last game. They kept a clean sheet against Spurs, but Spurs were just so bad. Actually, that wasn't last game. That was the game before that. My bad. But they conceded 1 goal to Watford last game. So I would expect Liverpool to be able to score 3 or 2. And I think Salah will probably get a return. But I just think Sterling or De Bruyne, which right now I'd be leaning towards De Bruyne in terms of Man City options, they have a higher ceiling because that's a game, I mean, Norwich have injured defenders and everything. That's a game where Man City could win 6-0 and, you know, maybe De Bruyne just happens to get involved in most of those goals. All of a sudden he's got, 15 plus points. So I don't know. I think Salah is a pretty safe option, though, and right now I'm leaning towards him. Alexander-Arnold's an interesting one. I don't really trust Liverpool defensively enough. They could easily lose their clean sheet, and then I'd just be hoping for like a 5-point return, just hoping that he gets an assist. So I don't really want to do that, but it is an option. I understand if you do it. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of captaining defenders, but I did it a fair share last year, not that it ever worked. But yes, this will be my team. Let me know if you think I should play Zinchenko or Pukki. That should be pretty interesting, in terms of what actually happens in that game. I'm not making any transfers. I'm going to go ahead and look forward to what 2 transfers I can make as I look at these upcoming games. At the beginning of the season, I was really looking at like expected goals and expected assists, and I'm like, yeah, let me look at more of those this season. But once my start of the season, it was pretty bad. I pretty much went back to doing what I was doing last year, which is just watching the games and pretty much deciding those stats on my own because I do have some problems with expected goals. It's a good substitute for when you just didn't watch the game and you can get some information for it. Like, for example, if a player has high expected goals, then that's good. But just because their expected goals is low doesn't mean they played bad, because they could be getting in situations where they just don't quite get the shot off, the ball just doesn't quite fall to them or whatever. but they don't get the shot off, so they don't get the expected goal statistic, even though in actuality, the probability of them scoring that situation could have been like, 20%, but just because they didn't quite get the ball, it doesn't actually calculate it. So, but yeah, basically I'm going back to just pretty much eye testing most things and then looking at how many shots they took, which is something I like to see. I don't know what you can do with that information, but I'm just telling you what my strategy to change, and hopefully I can start playing pretty well again as I did last week. But it was a wildcard week, so who knows how good it actually was. We'll see. I am sort of excited for this week. No changes. Just let the team ride out, and hopefully they will play well. And follow me on Twitter if you want to see any updates in case I change my captaincy, or maybe I play Zinchenko or play Pukki. Who knows? That will be in the description. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.